What is up, everybody? We are back with our Week 4 preview. It is Friday morning, almost afternoon, and Week 4 started in last night's game. As always, joined by my brother, Brian. Brian, what'd you think of last night's game? I know we were talking beforehand. Detroit looks pretty damn good.
Yes, they do. That they were getting a lot of pressure on Love, which is great, and they were obviously able to force him to kind of run around a bit and everything. It was really good defense, and obviously their offense is. I like what's going on there. The David Montgomery thing was very surprising. I didn't think he was going to get 30 carries, and 3 touchdowns. But yeah, I think he's an automatic start from here on out until we have no reason not to. The Gibbs involvement kind of worries me. I don't know. That could change, I guess. But it's just kind of like, man, it's just not happening. And Sam Laporta, you got to start him every week, I feel like.
Yeah, the Montgomery thing, I think, especially coming off an injury, I never expected that. But all offseason I was talking about him, and we were talking about him as just like, man, what's going on here with the value of, it wasn't even a thing against Jahmyr Gibbs. It was more about just like, why is Montgomery just he's literally stepping into a better team, into a role in which we just saw a guy be a top 12 guy already, and he's
great
probably better than him.
Yeah,
and it's showing. He has 5 touchdowns in 4 weeks, and he missed a week. It's crazy. Obviously you never expect what he did yesterday. I was watching it, and when that third touchdown, I was like, oh, he's not gonna. I think it was third at the 6-yard line. I was like, oh, he's not gonna get it. Then they run it. I was like, oh shit, and then he's down at the 1, 4th and 1. He's not gonna get it, and then they give it to him again. I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here we go. But yeah, the Gibbs thing, that's the risk you take, man. I think in one of our leagues, where did he go in the 2nd round?
He went at the 1-2 turn. Yeah, rough.
It's the risk. It's the risk, man. With these guys, I understand it. And it was just, I think the hype was a little bit too much, and we literally just saw a situation of DeAndre Swift last year. He's basically being used like DeAndre Swift. I don't know. It is rough for sure, but
yeah. On the other side of the ball, why did they use AJ Dillon so much? I don't know. Aaron Jones must have not been fully healthy. I don't know, man. It was just so weird to see him out there so much, and it was just like, what is going on? One thing that I do like is the kind of evolving chemistry you're seeing with Love and his receivers. He's got 3 young guys. And it's kind of man, these guys could really become something, Obviously they have offensive line issues, and they'll be an interesting team to talk about going forward, who to start when and stuff, because it's going to be a little tough, but I like the new version of the Packers kind of thing, without Rodgers and without Devontae Adams, the next generation.
They're a fun team to watch for sure. Because they're all young. You said 3. There's actually 4. Dontavian Wicks is a rookie as well, who's caught a couple long passes this year. He's their 4th guy, deep threat kind of guy. But and then you got one rookie tight end, but 2 rookie tight ends. One's not really playing that much. But so just kind of a fun team to watch. And they started to make a comeback, and then. Yeah, the impressive thing about Detroit was when the Packers got it within 10 at the beginning of the 4th quarter, they went on a 9-minute, 14-play touchdown drive, and it literally just game over.
I knew that was coming too, because the Packers, they just could not stop David Montgomery. He was getting 3 yards at a minimum every time. Yeah. So it's and they were obviously playing very aggressive, and they were killing him underneath too, just on those little short area things, a 5-yard pass turning into 12 yards and stuff. They were just killing them there. And so they did a really good job of opening up the field for Goff for sure, just on all levels.
Yeah. So it's good to see the Lions take control for sure. So we'll get into it. We're going to go into 5 matchups today. We're just kind of, talking about those fringe guys that maybe you're deciding on whether to start or not, and who we would start over them. We're kind of not spend too much time on the obvious guys, the guys that you should be starting with no question. And we base everything on half PPR. So first game we got is the London game, early for people on the West Coast. Was it 6:30 in the morning or something? Falcons at Jags. Jags are favored by 3, and the over/under is 43. So we'll start with the Falcons. Again, the obvious guy. Well, there's really only one obvious guy in Bijan, I'd say.
Yeah.
Are you moving on from Kyle Pitts yet? Like, have you already moved
Oh
on
man,
from Kyle Pitts?
is. I think I might have said this last week, but he's tough because if you drop him, someone's going to pick him up. And it's like, it depends on who's out there. If you have a second tight end, if you have Hunter Henry or something, like fire him up over Kyle Pitts. But I feel like this is kind of like, all right, this is it, man. Like, I don't know. I don't feel good about starting him, but he is a tight end. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's so tough, man. But yeah, like the Hunter Henry, people are going to have a love-hate thing with him because if you have Hunter Henry, you probably haven't benefited from any of his points. You didn't have him week 1. Maybe you picked him up for week 2 and you're like, all right, let me see one more week. He goes off and then you start him week 3. In typical fantasy football, he has a shitty game, so there's a lot of people could be feeling that way. I don't know. I'm probably just going to keep rolling Pitts out there, to be honest, because like you said, it's a tight end. I know he's not, even for tight end standards, he's not really doing that well, but he's averaging 4.7 half PPR points a game. Like, oh God, like it's gross. But I'll keep going for another week or two if I don't have anyone before I start streaming.
Yeah, you don't want to roster 2 if you can avoid it, and he kind of solves that, but he's not helping you in that sense. Like he did have 9 targets though, didn't he? I'm trying to pull him up right now.
Yeah, he did have
9 targets, only 5 catches for 41. So,
yeah,
not the worst.
Yeah,
not great
for sure. What if like Gerald Everett's sitting out there on the waiver wire? Would you start Gerald Everett over him, who maybe has a boosted role with Mike Williams being out?
Honestly, I would. I'm not dropping Pitts for Gerald Everett, but if he's out there, man, it's tough because, like I said, it depends on. You have a guy to drop to roster 2 tight ends. Like, I don't know. It gets a little rough. I feel like you just got to pick your poison with that. So I'm not dropping Pitts for Everett, but yeah, I probably prefer to start him over Everett. So do with that what you will, I guess.
Yeah, no, you're right about the rostering too. Because if you only have 5 or 6 bench spots, like, I'm feeling it with having to roster Geno Smith with Anthony Richardson, who I might drop soon. Geno. Just because it's like, man, there's so much more upside in like grabbing a Tajay Spears or Rico Dowdle, having one of those guys hit rather than wasting a bench spot on a backup quarterback or tight end. So, I kind of agree with you there. And the other guy is Drake London. Like, is he less of a start than Kyle Pitts because he's a receiver? Like, where are we putting Josh Palmer, Elijah Moore? Like,
I like Josh Palmer. I like Josh Palmer better. Elijah Moore, I don't know. It's tough, man, because Drake London, if it's 3 receiver, or I don't know, like maybe as your flex, I guess, like you're probably starting him, but it's tough. There are some waiver wire guys that were picked up over these last few weeks that it's like I would start them over him, like, Tank Dell being one. I would have started Dobbs last night. It's easy to say that now. That doesn't do anyone any good. But yeah, Elijah Moore's close because he is very involved.
Super involved. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he has more guarantee of targets.
Yeah. What about Marquise Brown?
Better passing
out San Francisco.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got an injured thumb, I think, right now. So I think I would lean Drake London in that case, unless we get like a full, like he's good to go kind of a thing. I think it's an injured thumb. Yeah, they're saying he could be a game time decision as of 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's his thumb. So as of right now, Yeah, I'm gonna go with Drake London. I'll probably go with him even if Marquise Brown is fully good to go.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's a tough one for sure. Yeah, man, I'm just glad I don't have Drake London anywhere. Really, like, I don't have to worry about that. I know it doesn't help everyone out there, but you're just hoping for a touchdown. I mean, yeah, I mean, if Mark, what's that?
I was just going to say he might be a good buy low candidate in Dynasty. I know we don't talk about that too much here, but, you know, if you're a rebuilding team, it's like, do you think Ritter's going to be there next year? I don't know. Maybe it's not necessarily a Ritter problem, though. I mean, it's part of it, but it's also their coaching staff. Like, if they're winning games like this, like, they're just going to keep doing that. So, I don't know.
Here's the thing, though. I think it was last week. I'm double checking. It was either last week or the week before. No, it was last week. Ritter threw the ball 38 times.
Yeah.
And it literally translated into nothing for Drake London. Like,
I know it's tough.
Yeah. So like the narrative was, okay, week 1 they threw it 18 times. Okay, if they throw it more, they're in a game where they have to throw it more. They'll feast. These guys will do well. And then they played the Packers. He threw it 32 times, and Drake London had a good game. But then he had a game where they threw it 38 times, and Drake London, Johnny Smith had 8 targets. So, I don't know. It really is. But hopefully we helped a little bit there. There's no one else really to start on the Falcons. So, Jacksonville, what about Trevor Lawrence? Are you still going to roll him out? You probably drafted him as this is my guy. You probably didn't draft another quarterback, or maybe you did, but you drafted him as your starter. Are you just going to continue with that, not have to roster another quarterback, or are you looking to the waiver wire?
I think I would just roll him out there, honestly. Well, I think, maybe we expected a little too much from him going into the season, but I think he's still starting caliber. He is ranked as QB 20 is what I'm seeing. Or sorry. Yeah, that's his, like how he's actually played. Cause he had that bad game against Kansas City, but I mean, last week he didn't kill you. He got, 19 points basically. So he might just live in that range. We've seen him go on a little run before. So I don't know. I'm kind of interested to see what happens here. Cause they need to get their crap together, man. Like they need to get Ridley back more involved like they did in week 1. But yeah, I'm rolling him out there.
Yeah, I was always a little skeptical about this Jacksonville meteoric rise to Trevor Lawrence, 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns type of and they still could turn around. He did have he had a better game than his stat book shows. A lot of drops and stuff like that in that game.
Yeah,
against Houston. Yeah, so. I don't know. Would you start like Brock Purdy over Trevor Lawrence? Brock Purdy against the Arizona Cardinals?
No, that's tough. Nah, I'll go with Trevor Lawrence still.
About Stroud?
Trevor Lawrence.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of there with you again because you kind of drafted him as your starter, and he's had 2 games where he didn't kill you. He didn't win you weeks, but he didn't kill you. Then one game where, maybe it kills you. So you just kind of hope he at least gives you that 16, 17, 18 points in a 4-point per passing touchdown, at least. And then obviously he has the upside of, 22 plus. So, I do think they're going to get things right this game. I think there's going to be a potential big Jacksonville win this game. I just have this feeling. So I'm going to roll him out there. And then at ETN, you're starting. Ridley, you're starting. Christian Kirk, are we starting Christian Kirk?
Yeah, I think so. I think you have to at this point.
It looks like Zay Jones hasn't practiced this week again with a knee injury, so even more so.
Even better.
With Zay Jones, yeah. I agree. He should be a top 24 receiver. So, and then Evan Ingram is, again, probably the most consistent tight end this year so far, the first 3 weeks. Just six catches, 60 yards, like every week, essentially. No touchdowns, I don't think. But he's tight end 5 or 3. I think he's tight end 3 on the year, actually. So, yeah, you're rolling out Evan Ingram. So, anything else from this game? We'll move on.
Yeah. No, that's it. Start ETN.
Yeah. I think I mentioned that, but maybe if I didn't, yes,
definitely
start ETN.
Yeah.
Dolphins at Bills. So we get to see the Dolphins after their 70-point explosion, which was insane. Bills are favored by 2.5. Over under is 53.5. So you're starting all the guys. You're starting Tua, you're starting Tyreek Hill, you're starting Waddle if he's out there, and you're starting Mostert. The big question is Achane, right? Achane? No, Achane.
Achane,
yeah. I want to, we said Achane. It's always funny with situations like that. It's like, it really, like, why did it take? It wasn't like he was a nobody in college. He was a pretty well-known guy. Like, how did no one know his pronunciation of his name correctly until after he explodes in week 3 or something? It's just, but maybe people just, I don't know. But anyways, obviously, like, it's really, really hard to not start Achane. I'm going to mess that up a lot. But after seeing a 50-point game and 200 total yards, are you rolling him out there if you have him, Brian, just kind of chasing that? Or are you a little more skeptical?
So it's tough. It's tough because obviously, like, that's probably going to most likely be the best game of his career. And that's not taking away anything from him, but it's like, you can never go into a week expecting a guy to get 50 points, So, but I mean, you see what that upside is in that offense. And so I think that's where he becomes like really powerful. Like, is he a lock to score more than, Rachaad White, Najee Harris, Dameon Pierce? I'm just kind of reading the guys around him. It's like, no, but do those guys have that kind of upside? I'd also say no to that. So it kind of just depends on where your team's at, I think he's a great play. Do you know what time this game's at? I was just gonna say, like if he's
it's an early game.
Okay, but yeah, I think you're rolling him out there if you need that big chance. If you're going against like a juggernaut team or something like that, like, I mean, you could do worse for sure.
If you played against Montgomery and St. Brown or something, Thursday night. It's. I think I'd start him over those guys. I think I'd start him over the Pachecos, the Najee Harris's, the Dameon Pierce, definitely Breece Hall. Obviously like Jalen Warren and Herbert, but those guys, Rachaad White, I'm starting him over those guys. Like, I'm starting him over Javonte.
What about James Conner? They're playing San Francisco this week, but James Conner just seems to be matchup proof to some extent. So
yeah, I'm going to do James Conner. It'll be interesting to see if Salvin Ahmed plays and what that means for Achane. He was limited in Wednesday and Thursday. We haven't got the Friday reports yet. It's Friday morning, so that's an interesting thing. But I kind of relate it to, and I said this when we talked about the Swift last week. And it was like, oh, well, Kenneth Gainwell is going to be back. And I kind of said, like, how do you go away from what you saw with Swift in week 2, the 30 carries or 25 carries for 170 yards? And it kind of showed, like, they went with Swift in week 3. It's like, how do you go away from what you saw from Achane, right? Achane.
I did hear something about the Buffalo run defense in general, that they're really good at stopping guys at the line, but if you get past that line, like, all these guys, they have the speed to just take off, and Buffalo is not necessarily that great at that. So I think the way Miami plays is it's really going to give the Buffalo Bills a headache, and so I'm predicting like a pretty big shootout here, because we'll see if the defenses can stop each other. I mean, Miami, obviously they scored 70 last week, but they also let the Broncos score 20. So that's got to be like, 60 for Buffalo? They've got to be 3 times better, No.
and the Broncos defense just could be really, really bad. I mean, it's obvious, but just look at what Washington Commanders put up 35 points on them, and then they put up 3 on the Bills, So it could just be, even the Chargers defense held the Dolphins to less than 35 or something. Like, they didn't give up 40 points. So
I was talking more about the Miami defense. Like, they let the Broncos score 20, so that means Buffalo has to score at least double, right?
Yeah, but to touch on that, because I think it's a big one. again, I'd start him over Najee, Pacheco, Brian Robinson, Jerome Ford, Rashad White, Javonte Williams. I'd even do it, potentially, I think I'd do it over Kamara. Ah, man, that's a hard one. Alvin Kamara coming back.
He's going to...
Not an injury.
Yeah. I think he's going to be just fine. I'm firing up Kamara this year. We'll talk about him later, I guess, but it's like no one has done anything on that Saints team to take him off or, to take his job. So,
yeah, I agree with that. So, and then, we already said start Mostert, the receivers. We'll kind of move on to the Bills here. You're starting Allen, you're starting James Cook, you're starting Diggs. I think Gabe Davis is kind of the big one here. We've had a very Gabe Davis type of season. Kind of a bust in week 1, then in week 2, and then he started off well with a 35-yard touchdown catch in week 3, and then did nothing else. But you think this game's going to be a shootout, so that probably leads you to want to play Gabe Davis, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored, and yeah, I think this game is like the game script should favor Gabe Davis. Like he's out there all the time. He's on a great offense and everything, and he only needs that one play to justify starting him. And then obviously we've seen it. If he gets 2 of those plays, then you're really happy, and he's done that multiple times. So roll him out there as your wide receiver 3, and just hope he gets that touchdown. Yeah, I think it's really hard to go away from him. I mean, what about one of the Houston guys, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, or Gabe Davis? So it's a little tougher. I think the ceiling play is obviously Gabe Davis, and the other 2 guys are a little bit safer. Like they're gonna, especially in like full PPR. I know we always talk about half. Like it's close between those guys. I kind of think you can move them around according to like what your need is. Again,
I think I'm gonna go Gabe just because again potential shootout here.
We also saw Nico Collins disappear last week too.
Yeah.
So it's like you might only get 2 out of the 3 or 1 out of the 3 receivers on Houston every week, and you have to pick one. So it could be a little bit of a headache.
Yeah, I'd do Gabe Davis over Zay Flowers, DeAndre Hopkins, probably the Washington guys as well. Addison, would you do Gabe Davis or Addison?
Gabe Davis. I think they're very similar types of players right now, but Gabe Davis has the better quarterback, or he's on like the better offense, I guess. I guess they throw more in Minnesota, or they have been, since last year. But yeah, I think they're very similar players, and Davis plays way more than Addison, so I think he's the safer bet. More proven track record. Addison's snap percent did go up to 70% last week, though, so they're getting close to playing the same amount.
Yeah, it's still KJ Osborne, but they're playing a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. So, I kind of agree with that. I don't want to make a case for Dalton Kincaid. I don't know if you want to. Like, I don't get why people are still saying they're like, oh, start him this week. It's like, I don't know, man. We haven't seen anything, and he's literally splitting time with Dawson Knox. Like,
yeah, I kind of predicted this. Well, not really. I was just kind of like, I don't know that they're gonna bring. I just tried not to fall for the narrative. It's like, oh, they drafted this guy at tight end, but he's really a receiver. Like we've heard that before. We've heard it about running backs before too. And it's like, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I know Kincaid was not as good of a blocker as Knox, like going into the season. So it's like, oh, that means they're going to use him as a receiver. It's like, well, maybe he won't be on the field as much if he can't pass block, Like,
yeah.
So there was a lot of like signs. I mean, not to say that he's going to be necessarily terrible, but it's like, yeah, like he's got a Dawson Knox problem, and you can kind of flip flop between which one of those guys are going to be relevant for the week. It's going to come down to touchdowns, which Kincaid doesn't have yet. But yeah, I think the nice thing about Kincaid is if you drafted him as a starter, it was like the last tight end tight end 12 or whatever in your league. And so it's kind of like, he's not killing you to like drop him for Gerald Everett or whatever, which honestly, you're fine to start Kincaid this week. Also, if it is a shootout, he's got touchdown upside. We just haven't seen it yet. So I don't know. I probably actually would start Gerald Everett over him.
Yeah, I'm just avoiding him. I mean, Bills are notorious for like bringing rookies on very slowly as well, so look at James Cook from year 1 to year 2. So I don't know. I would have dropped them already, but we'll move on from that game. We'll go to the Vikings at the Panthers. Over under 46.5. Vikings are favored. You're starting all your Vikings guys. I guess Addison's the only big question here. So I forget, what did you say with Addison and Gabe Davis? Did you say?
I said Gabe Davis just because I feel like they play similar roles right now. Like Addison's weeks have been saved by like a big touchdown basically each week, which is great, that he's on the field and involved already and they trust him with that. But I don't know if you can't necessarily rely on that,
Yeah, no, I agree definitely with that. Yeah, so like Addison or the Washington guys, who you want to go there?
Oh man, I don't even know what they did last week. I have not been paying attention to those guys. Did Dotson finally get involved? No, let's see.
No, he's
okay. So yeah, definitely over Dotson. Yeah, he's like border. Yeah, if there's someone better on the waiver wire, you could drop him too. Like, I mean, this offense hasn't looked like great yet, So yeah, I'll start Addison over both these guys.
Yeah, playing the Eagles, like, it's tough. It really is. I mean, Terry McLaurin's been just look, he's wide receiver 46 on the year, so he hasn't been great. I think I'm going to pause for a second here.
Okay.
So yeah, I would start. I'd actually start Addison over McLaurin. Thinking about it now, just because I kind of know what to expect with the Vikings. They're going to be either in a shootout or they're going to be throwing the ball a bunch. So, and Washington just could get kind of dominated. So, I don't want to. I want to stay away from. I think those Washington guys go for the upside of Addison. So, I think what we saw from Madison, he's probably a must start after we saw a good game finally. Would you say that against Carolina? They want to, would you say he's like a top 20 guy?
I'm not really sure. Like he's a tough one because he hasn't looked good. He did look good last week, which was great. Which is what you wanted to see. I mean, he's involved, obviously, like he's getting all the snaps. I'll be interested to see what's going on with Cam Akers this week. But I mean, given the state of the running back, like he's a low end number 2 guy. So
yeah,
roll him out there. Carolina is not a scary matchup or anything. So yeah, you're starting Madison.
Yeah, for sure. On the Carolina side, I think kind of with that same logic, you're starting Miles Sanders, kind of the same Madison logic there. It sounds like Bryce Young is going to start, which might kind of suck for the receivers. I give you credit, Brian, because I almost passed over Adam Thielen last week, and you're like, "Hey, Adam Thielen," and he's like wide receiver 7 on the year now. With Bryce Young, though, are you okay with still starting him? He did have a good game with Bryce Young, so
yeah, he wasn't nobody, with Young. Just real quick, back on the Madison thing, Carolina is ranked 30th in points per game allowed to running back. So yeah, you're definitely firing them up. Thielen, I think why not? I think you can make the case for him pretty easily. The dude is involved. He's probably not going to get 14 targets this week, but I think he's a lock for 8 targets. They look for him in the red zone. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like the guy's still good, he can still have a good game without a touchdown. But he has the obvious potential. So don't be ageist. Start Adam Thielen.
Yeah. Yeah, it just shows you like the value of like backup quarterbacks, and it's just like, Jets, what are you doing? Like if the Jets had Andy Dalton, I think everyone would be super excited. Like Fuck yeah, they have Andy Dalton. He can move an offense. You know, he threw for like 360 yards last week, which is kind of crazy. But like, even if he doesn't do that, he can move an offense. He's a professional quarterback. Like, man, just get someone, Jets, please. Like, make Garrett Wilson good.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by DJ Shark because I think he could be like the best receiver on the team, but I'm not starting him. I would essentially add him if you can. I did in one of my leagues, so
stash him if you can.
Yeah, see what happens this week. Could have a good player, and then I'm kind of out on Hayden Hurst. I was excited about him. Had a good week 1, and then he just hasn't. You know, we'll see with Bryce Young, but you're not starting Hayden Hurst. But his best game was week 1. Obviously, Bryce Young played. And then he played the Saints, and the Saints are really good against tight ends, and then Bryce Young was out. So we'll see in week 4. He could have, if he has another good game, then maybe you pick him back up, but don't start Hayden Hurst.
I mean, he's touchdown or bust, just like most tight ends. Like, he had a good week 1 because he had a touchdown, basically. Like, he was 5 for 41, nothing like crazy, but, you know, definitely started. 41
would have been probably like top 5 that week. Week 1 was terrible.
Probably, but. Yeah, I don't think you have to start him, but I think you could do worse for sure.
Yeah. So Panthers are pretty easy because they're not that great of a team. So we'll move on to 2 not very good teams. The Broncos at the Bears. Over under 46.5, which I find that hilarious because it's like, man, they just think these defenses are really bad. If the over under is that high for these teams, Broncos have been okay offensively. They've been pretty good. Bears have not, but still the over under is pretty high. Broncos are favored by 3. We'll start with the Broncos. I'm fine with still rolling out Russell Wilson. We'll kind of compare him with a couple other guys. He is QB9 on the year. He's had 2 weeks that didn't kill you, and then 1 week that was really good for you. Let's go through some names here, like Russell Wilson. All right, let's say Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. Let's say you have them both. Who are you rolling out there?
I mean, Fields definitely has the upside. It's I think the matchup is juicy for both. So, I mean, if you have both of those guys, like, I would probably roll out. It's kind of tough, man. You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to start Russell Wilson over Justin Fields. I want to see a little something. I want to see Justin Fields get going on the ground again, like we saw last year. Stop trying to make him, a pocket passer. That's not how he plays. That's not his strength. Play to his strength and then try and figure out the stuff that he's not good at and improve on it over the year. Like, don't force him to do the stuff he's not good at.
What about Wilson or Daniel Jones against Seattle?
Russ.
Okay. And Wilson or Joe Burrow at Tennessee.
Yeah, that's tough, man. I think Russell Wilson's the safer play.
I think so,
like Burrow, we saw, like, he can still play to some extent even when he's hurt, but it's not the prettiest, that's for sure. Like, you don't necessarily want him to play.
Yeah. Here's the thing, like, I was a little surprised by this. Justin Fields' first 2 weeks didn't kill you. He had over 15 points and 4-point passing touchdown both weeks, and then 11 last week. Joe Burrow had 2 weeks where you probably lost because you had 3.2 and 9.2 from your quarterback. Like, those are, we talk about quarterbacks, you don't need to spend up on them, but you still need them to give you 16, 18 points. You can't get less than 15 from your quarterback and win that often, It's just you're at a huge disadvantage. So, I'm fine with starting Russ over those guys. Man, another hard one. What do we do with the running? Obviously, it's only Javonte at this point. What are we doing with Javonte? Like, juicy matchup, we want to start him? Or like I already said I'd start Achane. I can't not say Achane because I've been saying Achane for a year now.
Achane. Yeah, I know. I kind of forget sometimes which part it changed. Is it Achane or is it Achane? Because I always remember one part changed and I have to kind of think about it.
Yeah.
But sorry, who are we talking about? Javonte Williams. Yeah, he's tough, man. Because he hasn't really been doing what you need him to do. Like, he's definitely the only one to consider at this point, but it's like, the matchup is juicy. He's still playing less than 50% of the snaps, so they're kind of like maybe they're still working him back slowly, but he is involved. He's averaging 4 targets a game. Turning it into 3 catches. So, or I guess it's only 2 catches. I'm trying to. Oh no, that's 3. I'm doing the math in my head as I'm looking at it. So I don't know. Desperation low end number 2 guy, but.
Let's say you're deciding between him and Jerome Ford against Baltimore.
Man, I think I would start Javonte just because of the matchup. Like Jerome Ford, if he doesn't get touchdowns, he's in trouble, and it's like I don't know. I think that's going to be a very defensive heavy game.
Yeah.
So I'll go with Javonte.
What about Javonte or Najee Harris, who has a good matchup playing Houston?
Yeah, I'd start Najee. He's going to touch the ball, 20 times or something like that. Like the Jaylen Warren thing still hasn't fully manifested like everyone thinks it has, just because you see Warren out there and he looks a little bit better. Like, because I just think there's like bias broken or built in there, because I haven't really dug into the stats for those 2 guys. Like, but I wouldn't be surprised if, they're not using Najee just because, like, he's obviously been playing well enough. The Steelers just look like trash.
All the advanced stats actually point to Najee being like a better running back this year so far.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
So, yeah, I think Javonte, the nature of the running backs and the matchup, you're going to throw him out there most likely. And then, it seems like you were right again, Brian. Cortland Sutton, I think, is the number 1 receiver for this team. Like, Sean Payton kind of like apparently scripts his plays in the first drive or first quarter, and it was like all Cortland Sutton, really. Like, they were just feeding him the ball. So, Cortland Sutton's been playing well. I think he's kind of like almost like a for sure. Well, I don't know. Do you think he's like a lock to start in 3 wide receiver leagues?
Yeah, in 3, I don't know how you get away from him at this point. Well, that's a little bold, I think, maybe to say that, but because you didn't necessarily. You were drafting him in like round 8 or something like that. Like, but yeah, no, I think you got to fire him up. Like, I would start him. Like, I think him between like the Houston guys is like kind of an interesting conversation. But even if he's not, he's very involved. So I think I would fire him up. I think he's more of a lock for his role than any one of the Houston guys, because like we've said before, it's going to be 1 out of the 3 or 2 out of the 3 there, and you got to pick which one. So
yeah, I agree. And I honestly think Judy is kind of like, especially where you drafted him, I think he's probably a start as well. He actually didn't have a bad game last week. He had 5 for 81. He just didn't catch a touchdown like Sutton did. I think Sutton had a very similar stat line, maybe more targets or something, but like 90 yards and a touchdown.
8 for 91, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So a few more catches and a touchdown. So I would say, well, like, are you starting Judy over Garrett Wilson against the Chiefs? Judy and Sutton.
Yeah, I'll start them over Garrett Wilson against the Chiefs. Like, I think the Chiefs defense has shown us like they're for real, and I think they're gonna Zach Wilson's gonna have a bad day.
What about Tutu Atwell? Are you starting Atwell over either one of these guys?
I would consider Atwell over Judy, but not over Sutton.
Funny, because Tutu Atwell's wide receiver 12 on the year.
Yeah, I know. Like, I'm always like a little slow to come around to that kind of stuff. Like, I think I carry my bias a little bit too far into the season. Like, you really got to get away from that at this point. Like, who cares where these guys were drafted or whatever? Just who's actually producing,
Yeah, for sure. Last one, would you start, let's say Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't play, would you start these guys over Jacoby Myers, who's had 2 really good games, the 2 games he's played?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends on, I guess I'd start.
So let's say Garoppolo plays, who are you starting? Sutton, Judy, or rank the guys, Sutton, Judy.
Yeah. Sutton, Myers, Judy, I think.
Okay. And then if if it's Brian Hoyer and Garoppolo's out, I think I read he's still in concussion protocol before we started recording. So if it's like Brian Hoyer, are you putting both Broncos guys ahead of him, or are you keeping it the same?
I don't even know like what to make of that. I mean, it's not like Jimmy Garoppolo is like the best quarterback, but he's obviously a starter for a reason over Brian Hoyer or the rookie Aiden O'Connell, who I think was actually a healthy scratch last week or something, or he was definitely ruled out for whatever reason. I didn't actually look why. So I don't know. I'm getting away from Jacoby Myers with another quarterback. I think just because I don't know what to expect. I think you didn't necessarily draft Jacoby Myers as like a locked-in starter. So if you can get away with them, good. But he's probably still like a low-end number 3 guy.
Yeah. Generally, you don't have 3 active quarterbacks just because you want to have other guys active. You're not assuming 2 quarterbacks get hurt essentially. So
they made a rule now too, like where you can have a third quarterback dress but not be considered on your roster or something like that this year.
Yeah. I forget if that's in the playoffs only or not. I forget. Okay. But generally, you just have 2 quarterbacks active. So, you would hope it doesn't go to, 2 guys get hurt. I think I'd still start Myers over Judy. If it's Brian Hoyer, I'm starting both Broncos guys over Myers just because.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Mostly because of the matchup. So, on the Bears side, again, I think Justin Fields, like, I'm fine if you want to bench him because you've been hurt by him. Not as hurt as I thought, because I don't have Fields. Well, I do have him on one team, but like he wasn't as bad as I thought the first 2 weeks. But yeah, it's just the potential. This Broncos defense could be really, really bad. I just want to start Fields, I think, for the most part. Like, I'm not going to start. Like, would you start Brock Purdy or Justin Fields?
Fields for the upside.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, if you have 2 top guys, then fine, go with the other one. But if it's just like, if it's like a Purdy, or even like, I know Goff already played, or like a Stafford, like, I'm just going to go with Fields just for the upside. So,
yeah.
And then I'm not starting any of these running backs until I see one of them get more than 10 carries in a game. And then, DJ Moore, I think if we like Fields, I think we got to go with DJ Moore, right?
Yeah, I think you're still rolling him out there, especially in 3 receiver leagues. I don't know how you get away from him there.
Well, Thielen or DJ Moore in a 2 wide receiver league, you're choosing between Adam Thielen or DJ Moore. Who are you starting?
I'd probably choose Adam Thielen. Like, I don't see why not at this point.
I know.
The Bears got to get it together, man.
They do. What about Gabe Davis or DJ Moore?
I think that kind of Gabe Davis. Shootout, narrative, all that good stuff. Better quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Cole Kmet. Are we still starting Cole Kmet? Like, what is?
I don't think so. I don't know. I think
we gotta move on. Like Gerald, I'll take Gerald Everett over Kmet.
Oh yeah, easy.
Yeah, you should be able to find like a Ferguson, Everett, Zach Ertz, Hunter Henry, all these guys. I would think I would start over Kmet. So.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, on to the last matchup, the Ravens and the Browns. Interesting one here because I think the Browns defense is just really damn good. All the advanced statistics kind of say they're like the best in the league. But yeah, the Ravens, you're starting Lamar. You're starting Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers. Where are we at with Zay Flowers? Who's, obviously looked really good in the first week of the year. And then he's kind of had 2 like okay games, didn't kill you, didn't help you too much. He's a wide receiver 37 on the year. Are you kind of trying to avoid him in this matchup? I mean, the Browns have been, again, really damn good overall against like everyone. They're number 1 against receivers. And just real quick before you answer, they've given up 44.7 points to receivers, and I think like 12 or 13 of that came on that one George Pickens play. So like take that into account as well. Are you kind of trying to bench Zay Flowers? Like the guy we talked about, DJ Moore, or Zay Flowers?
Yeah, I mean, Beckham's still not practicing. I'm looking at Bateman right now too to see. I mean, if both those guys are out, I don't see how you got to go with Zay Flowers, better quarterback. So yeah, he's still not practicing as of 2 hours ago, Bateman. So it's like Zay Flowers is the number one guy behind Mark Andrews probably at this point, and maybe even ahead of Mark Andrews. I don't know. So I'd throw Zay Flowers in there, especially if those other two guys don't play.
Yeah, and they're going to get the ball in his hands. Like, you can almost guarantee he's going to touch the ball at least 4 or 5 times. So, yeah, Zay Flowers or the Houston guys.
Probably, I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good about the Houston guys are just so hard to pick. Now, I just avoid the headache and start Zay Flowers over all of them.
Yeah. Okay. What about Zay Flowers or looking at a running back, Breece Hall?
Zay Flowers. Breece Hall is just, we got to see something more from him as far as like involvement, which, after since week 1, I mean, I know he had that big play in week 1, which is like basically all he did, but he played about half the snaps last week. I mean, the Jets are just so bad. It's hard to trust anything. But I mean, last week he went 12 attempts for 18 yards. Their line is just not good, so it's tough to trust them. They're playing Kansas City. I don't know, man. Like, I'm avoiding Breece Hall, so yeah, Zay Flowers.
Yeah, and then the running backs, like, what are we doing here? I don't want to start any of them. It looks like Gus Edwards is going to play. He's full practice Wednesday and Thursday. Honestly, I just don't want to start any of the, especially against this Cleveland team. Like,
I agree.
Who are number 2 against running backs. So yeah, I'd say bench all these guys.
You don't want to fire up Melvin Gordon?
if Gus Edwards is out, I'd think about it if I'm desperate. So, but no, I don't. I don't want to. Not against Cleveland.
Yeah, I think we actually picked Cleveland to win this game straight up, just because their defense has been so good. Like,
yeah,
man,
really good. On the Brown side, I'm starting Watson. He had a good week, and you drafted him to be your starter. You're starting Amari Cooper. Elijah Moore, I love his usage. I'm going to try and not, like, if I can avoid him, I will. Like, I'd start Marquise Brown, Michael Thomas. I'd probably start DJ Moore, Addison, McLaurin over him, but I'd start Elijah Moore over, like, a Drake London, to be honest. I think I would, like, over Jahan Dotson. Josh Palmer or Elijah Moore? Who would you go there?
I'd roll out Josh Palmer. I think their usage is going to be similar in terms of targets and everything, and I just think that, especially if they get Eckler back this week, the Chargers, like, their offense is going to look better in general. Not that they've looked like terrible, but they got to establish that run with Eckler again because Kelly wasn't getting it done. So I like Josh Palmer.
Just hope it gets on. I really believe like Elijah Moore can be good. 25 targets in 3 weeks is really good. He also has he's getting 2 carries on average a game, like, which is nice. But yeah, I kind of need to see it kind of turn into fantasy points a little bit. And then Jerome Ford. Any avoiding Jerome Ford in a tough matchup, or he had a tough matchup last week and got a couple touchdowns. Are you kind of just hoping he gets a touchdown or 2, or like Jerome Ford, or do we already say, I don't know, like Rachaad White, who's also in a tough matchup?
I'd probably start Rachaad White. Like,
yeah,
I just think he'll be a little bit more involved in the passing game, maybe.
What about Achane? Or Ford?
Yeah, shoot for the upside. Start Achane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll be interested to see if they get Kareem Hunt involved more.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah, because he did. He's on a snap count, but he played a bit for sure. So they could slowly bring him in more and more. So kind of watch for that. But I think for the most part, given the running back situations, you're starting him. Like if he's probably a top 24 running back, I'd say. So if you're stacked at running back, you have a decision to make. But I think for the most part, you're going to be rolling him out there. And then I want to get away from Njoku. I don't know about you. I don't want to start Njoku. Like I probably would have dropped him.
Yeah, fire up Gerald Everett over him. I like that Gerald Everett's just become our go-to, like, standard. Like, all right, he's the guy you start over all these other guys.
Yeah, and I mean, like, Donald Parham has 3 touchdowns. Like, that could easily, one of those could easily go to Everett instead, So,
yeah.
But yeah, I think that's it for this game, and that's it for this video. We'll be back with, like, 5 more, unless there's something else you want to say, Brian?
No, I don't think so. I'm sure I could just keep talking and talking, so I think it's good to just cut it off, and we'll save it for the next one.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up. And we'll be back with 5 more. As always, like the video and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys next time.